Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our National Biodiversity Assessment 2025 webinar series. This is the third webinar of this series, and we hope you will join us again. I hope you all can hear me.
Yes, we hear you well.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. So for today's webinar, I'll just give a short overview of what the NBA is, and then I'll hand over to my colleagues from the Freshwater team to take you through today's topic. The first speaker is Nancy. So the National Biodiversity Assessment is very complex and covers many aspects of biodiversity, and the levels of assessment are ecosystems, species, and more recently, genetic diversity. In ecosystems, we assess all of South Africa's 980 ecosystem types, the terrestrial realm, which is on land, the freshwater realm, which is made up of our rivers and our wetlands, and the estuarine realm, where the rivers meet the sea, and our marine realm. In addition, we specifically focus on assessing the cross realm, the coastal zone, where we bring together the terrestrial and freshwater and estuarine and marine data. Last but not least, we also assess subantarctic territory, which is substantial marine territory, and two small but important islands. We're very proud to be the first country to assess all our ecosystems across all realms using the Red List of Ecosystems framework of the IUCN. And partners for this work on ecosystems are important. The Institute for Coastal and Marine Research at Nelson Mandela University leads the coastal component, and the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research leads the estuarine component. For species, we are a world leader in this field with a national red list dating back as old as 40 years, and we have applied the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species categories and criteria to 15 full taxonomic groups, with 3 new groups that we've recently assessed for the first time in this particular NBA, which are the freshwater crabs, the fairy shrimps, and ostraca, and the spiders. And we do this with multiple partners contributing to or leading to assessments of specific taxonomic groups. For example, the Endangered Wildlife Trust leads the Mammal Red List, BirdLife South Africa leads the Bird Red List, and so on. So genetic diversity underpins all biological diversity, playing a key role in individual fitness, an organism's ability to survive and reproduce, a species' ability to adapt to changing environments, and overall ecosystem resilience. Yet, indicators for this aspect of biodiversity are just being developed, and perhaps not surprisingly, South Africa is once again at the forefront piloting these indicators and reporting on them in the NBA. So these efforts are built from a wealth of publications and existing resources, resulting in a range of NBA products, principally a book that you can download. And for the very first time this year, this NBA is available as a website with 108 web pages and thousands of images and plots and maps. And regular updates of this version of the NBA via the website are now possible by the NBA team themselves. The data science skills that we have built over the last 4 years have allowed us to take a huge step towards a living national biodiversity assessment, And we will use this momentum to improve our biodiversity monitoring systems in general. All of this being at the front of biodiversity assessment requires constant innovation and problem solving with few global examples to follow. And it also requires collaboration both in South Africa and with international scientists and institutions. And this brings us to a really key aspect of the NBA in that it is clearly an enormous undertaking. The NBA 2025 was a collaborative effort from more than 490 contributors, representing approximately 110 institutions, and it took approximately 23,000 person days of work over 6 days. So it requires a great deal of facilitation from the leadership team and quite amazing goodwill and interest of our partners in making this a useful product and process. So thank you to everyone who was involved. This is a product for the whole biodiversity sector of South Africa. And I'm now going to hand over to one of our main speakers for today, which is Nancy. Over to you, Nancy. I will stop sharing my screen.
Oops. Thank you so much, Chipo. Let me just go ahead with my section. So I'm just going to do also a second introduction to today's topic, and that's the freshwater or inland aquatic realm. And so for our realm, in fact, we're dealing with two ecosystem groups, and that's the rivers and the inland wetlands. And for the rivers, we're pretty much have kept much to it's largely stayed unchanged since 2018 in terms of the network itself. But we're very grateful to have partnered for this NBA with Water Research Commission and Department of Water and Sanitation, specifically on their joint project, which was on the present ecological state and ecological importance and sensitivity project. And that project collated a really amazing large group of specialists, 5 groups of specialists actually looking into assessing river present ecological state. And so we were fortunate to be able to partner with them and have their permission to draw that information into this round of the NBA. As you're aware, the PES EIS project looks at the extent of ecosystem modification based on the 6 indicators. That's flow modification, physicochemical modification, in-stream habitat, and habitat continuity modification, as well as the state of the riparian and wetland zone where wetlands occur. And information from these indicators is aggregated, and then the score that you see into the NBA is that aggregated score that we were able to use, ranging from an A in good condition to extremely degraded F score. And the scoring was according to the Quinary catchment and the river reach through that catchment. And moving, so with those 22 types, in addition, we are moving ahead slowly with moving the river system, the ecosystem network of lines into polygons and river area. And we're also really excited to see some riparian area typing and mapping and further information projects coming on board into the future. So stay tuned for this this work going forward. Now with the wetland map, the national wetland map was the primary input for the inland wetlands component, and here we work on the historic extent of wetlands. We try to capture what was the historic extent, and lots of debate. We hopefully will have many more delving deeper into maybe FEN workshops, lots of workshops going forward to really unpack. We're doing you a really fast track overview of our work at the moment. So we used a mixed method in terms of expanding on the river, up the wetland extent. We used some hand digitizing. We used consultation with experts. We had people contributing. We're so grateful for some contributions of mapping. We had quite a technical wetland prediction program of work that unfolded over a number of years. And we also benefited from some partnerships with Digital Earth Africa and Global Wetland Watch for some Earth observation contributions that really have helped us in our typing and indicating some of the areas where we've missed, and hopefully it's a vice versa contribution. So at the moment, as you know, many of you have been asking, where's the data? When can we get the data? So we're just busy unfolding our typing. So we've got these 82 types, which are far fewer than previously, but that's because it's allowing us to dive deeper into the subtypes, and that will start to settle pretty soon over the next while. So we've got these bigger provisional regional types and busy subtyping with more characteristics, wetland characteristics as it goes. So that means that our threat status and protection level at the moment is interim as we unfold this, because everything, as you can see on the right hand side from our input data, the critical input layers are everything follows from that. So a stable map of types and stable map and a good confidence ecological condition is quite key. So just like to keep that in mind as I hand over to Casey going forward, who's going to talk to some of the results of our threat status and protection level, and also stay in touch. We'll be communicating, really ramping up our communication over the next 6 months. We'll have more workshops with FEN, and we'll have lots of interactions as we stabilize and walk into the next era of our wetland work. Thanks so much, Casey. I'm going to hand back to you. Casey Broom is our next speaker. Thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm just going to share my slides. Is everyone seeing that all right?
Yes, that's good.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. So thank you, Nancy. So I'll just be going over some of the close to finalized findings for the freshwater realm. So freshwater ecosystems, the rivers and inland wetlands are the lifeblood of South Africa, underpinning our water security, economy, and cultural heritage. The rivers and inland wetlands are among the most threatened and least protected ecosystems in South Africa, and it follows that the freshwater species which these ecosystems support are increasingly highly threatened. Looking towards river ecosystem threat status, 65% of river length and 65% of the 222 river ecosystem types are considered threatened. And of these 222 river ecosystem types, 22% are critically endangered, 19% are endangered, 23% are vulnerable, while 34% are of least concern. However, ecosystem threat status varies across geomorphological zones, with 67% of lowland river types being critically endangered, while only 25% of mountain and stream types are thusly considered. Looking towards river ecosystem protection level, 8% of river ecosystem types in South Africa are considered well protected, 13% are moderately protected, and 48% are poorly protected, while 1% are considered not protected at all. Worsening river ecological condition across the Western Cape, coupled with threatened fish species, identify this area as important for increased protection going forward, as well as the Upper Wilga catchment, the western region of the Eastern Cape, and selected rivers of the Free State and Limpopo province remain candidates for focused action. Looking at wetland ecosystem threat status, approximately 20% of our wetland extent is critically endangered, 21% is endangered, and 45% is vulnerable. The remaining 14% is assessed as least concern. The freshwater realm this year has been proud to have been part of the first NBA to have assessed all ecosystem types according to the IUCN red listing methodology. As Nancy's mentioned previously, we're still ironing out a few remaining small glitches, but the data will soon be available, and we'll continue to test, validate, and strengthen the methodology through 2026. Looking at wetland ecosystem protection level, 5% of the wetland extent and 10% of the 82 inland wetland types are considered well protected. These inland wetland types are severely underrepresented and underprotected in South Africa overall. However, there is some good news where strategic freshwater-associated restoration efforts within protected areas have contributed to increased protection and effectiveness since 2018, where several new Ramsar sites and protected areas supporting important wetlands have been put in place. However, achieving overall conservation goals will require countrywide efforts to be amplified through a comprehensive network of conservation measures across the broader landscape. Now, covering the ongoing pressures on freshwater systems, first we have habitat loss and degradation, where inland wetlands and their catchment areas are directly impacted through habitat loss fragmentation and through land degradation linked to overgrazing and inappropriate fire regimes. Secondly, biological invasions, where alien invasive species cause substantial changes to ecosystem structure and function and negatively impact aquatic biota. Rivers and inland wetlands are the most heavily invaded ecosystems globally, largely due to the inherent connectivity and intensity of anthropogenic activities around them. Thirdly, pollution is a major cause of the decline in freshwater species, including freshwater fishes and water birds in particular. A combination of sediment, nutrient, chemical, and thermal water pollution cumulatively impact the biodiversity and functioning of river and inland wetland ecosystem types and these associated freshwater species. Finally, climate change is a major pressure impacting all of the above, where changes in climate are expected to exacerbate the impacts of these current pressures on our inland aquatic ecosystems. Increasing temperature will impact the hydrological cycle and consequently the functioning of rivers and inland wetlands. Water temperatures are projected to vary across Africa by between 1 and 4 degrees Celsius, with the highest increases in the semi-desert Kalahari, while areas of the Northern Cape are imperiled by a situation of presently low protection level, high threat, and climate-related pressures, all intersecting in the future. Additionally, higher sediment yields primarily in the center and the east of the country, and lower sediment yields along the west and south coastal areas, especially in wetter than average years, is expected. Thank you very much to our colleagues at University of KwaZulu-Natal for providing us with this data. Thank you, everyone. I'll now be moving on to our next speaker, who'll be Nacelle, who'll be going into the nuts and bolts of how the present ecological state is put together. Thank you.
Thanks, Casey. I'm just going to quickly share my presentation. Okay, is it showing up?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Casey. So, as you mentioned, I'm going to talk about wetland health, or the PES for wetlands. So, to calculate the wetland condition, or then the wetland PES, we used the Wet Health Level 1A approach of McFarlane 2020, which is a non-detailed approach that infers pressures from land cover data. Now, because it is a non-detailed method, the results are of low confidence. However, it was selected as a preferred method of assessment because it is suitable for multiple wetlands, as is typical of a national wetland inventory for which it was applied, and also because it's very modest in its data requirements, with it requiring only the HCM-type wetlands, which is an output of the wetland mapping process, the wetland area of influence, which consists of a 200-meter buffer and the wetland catchment, and then also land cover data. So I'm not going to say too much about the HTM typing, and I'm just going to say quickly something about the area of influence and then also the land cover data. Just get that moving on. Okay. So due to technical limitations, the area of influence of previous wetland health assessments was limited to buffers surrounding wetlands. So for the NBA 2025, we were able to overcome this limitation to demarcate the actual wetland catchments, which resolves some previous issues, such as with buffers including downstream areas of wetlands, not including the entire catchment of the wetland during the analysis, and where we have small catchments, the buffers would sometimes extend into the catchments of neighboring wetlands, which is obviously undesirable. So for the NBA 2025, when we calculated the PES score, it was using the actual wetland buffer. For land cover, we were fortunate to have Andrew Skoner of Sandby to prepare us an extended land cover map specifically to calculate wetland PES. And a requirement of the Wetland Health Level 1 approach is that the land cover classes need to be signed to the 19 PES land cover categories of McFarlane, Ollis, and Kotze 2020, which was done in collaboration with Dean Ollis and Donovan, who are both authors of the original Wet Health method. And that was done to ensure that our land cover class allocations are aligned with the original grouping extent. So the process to calculate the wetland PES was automated by converting the Wet Health Level 1 Excel spreadsheet of McFarlane to an ArcGIS Python script, which, in addition to automating all GIS operations, also included some other benefits, such as allowing for a standardized and a systematic assessment, which in turn then also allows for temporal analysis with comparable results by simply using land cover from different years. It also mirrors the PES method, which is used by field practitioners, and therefore allows for an integration of their expert data into our results, which then gives an opportunity to validate our results and improve future PES modeling. A useful output of the level 1 approach is that impacts are calculated for the 4 wetland components of hydrology, vegetation, geomorphology, and water quality. That allows for a more in-depth analysis of the different impacts and how they affect wetland health, which are then combined by the approach into a single PES score for each individual wetland. Another advantage of the automated approach was that instead of the results being calculated separately within a spreadsheet, the results of the different components, as well as the overall wetland health score and categories, are copied directly to the input wetland feature class, which then allowed for easier visualization and analysis of the results. So I'm going to hand over now to Nancy. We'll talk a bit more about the results, and finish off the presentations. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Nassal. Apologies for the lag in being ready. Okay, so apologies, it's not opening on the right. So we've given you not a there's so much to have shown you that it was very difficult to decide where to jump in and give you bits of glimpses into what's happening with the assessment. We could have just presented the results and kind of left it at that, but I think it's really great to show one of the big areas of work that's really kept the team busy was really diving into the condition assessment. Another is being a teeny tiny team, trying to keep up with the amazing work of the full NBA team that's really led us into the automation sphere, getting our databases for our freshwater work up and organized, making it available through GitHub. We've got a now emerging GitHub database. We've got versioning. So our work has really been data science focused, very technical, desktop focused, and in terms of what's next, we want to make use of this amazing organized data and framework that we've got, and really complement it going forward with validation, working at scale, meaning smaller scale, meaning subcatchments, meaning with the provinces. We've been working with them as they work towards their state of biodiversity reports themselves. So a last little snapshot, this work that's not quite finished is we're for the first time also trying to stay on a par with the rest of the realms in terms of applying a full set of criteria according to the IUCN methodology. As you can see, these 4 criteria, A, B, C, and D, A being looking at, as we do our status and trends, can we detect these the reduced extent? Can we identify which ecosystem types are truly small distribution and endemic to South Africa? Can we track environmental degradation, both current and what has been the trend since 50 years ago, and what do we predict as the trend going forward, and what is the relationship with the species associated degradation? So it's a whole big piece of work for us to be setting us up to do. And so we really are a small team. We haven't received dedicated funding for this work. We've been doing it with some really generous partners, and so the work is slow, but I think we're really excited for the future. So don't be frustrated as we figure out which data is good, useful for the country to have at the moment. Certainly our expanded extent, certainly the great work of the condition work. We've had a small consultancy. We want to be scientific and evidence-based. We were able to appoint a team of people to validate in a test area our methodology for the condition and give us guidance and recommendations. And the same as this page that, sorry, it's been stuck showing you for a while, but we'll be looking at each of the criteria. How does it play out for us applying these criteria, and how does it look on the map across the landscape? Patsy made a good point, you know, the data in, as good as the data in is how good strong our assessment is. So we've got a lot of moving parts, but we've got this really nice framework set up now that's transparent, it's repeatable, it's a lot of it's automated, so that's going to free us up to kind of do our ecology work coming in again, and really play out, you know, each of these types. These types are not going to stay. These are you know, big bioregional types. We're gonna really look at each one. We've started with our descriptions. Is there a robuster description? You can actually go and find that Drakensberg depression, and there's when it gets a new name, it's a completely different ecosystem, and we'll be able to look. As you can see, we can look at the scoring and figure out what's have we got the thresholds quite right. Sorry to stick on that slide for quite a long time. So collectively, I'm hoping that we can work even better and more systematically and strategically together as a country across the freshwater realm, because we're a lot of us have got multiple projects. Maybe you could think about your project and how does it dovetail and where does it fit into this. There's so much room to hand over to a team and celebrate a team that's doing a piece of work into this massive collective work for the country. So if we don't do that, we're going to watch our ecosystems as, you know, you show up every time and we tell you the state is not improved, you know better, being on the ground, they continue to degrade and we're not investing in, we just can't keep up to stem that degradation. We know we need to work across the landscape, so we really need to work across realms. We're really going to work into that going forward, into catchments kind of based work, collaborating. It's, you know, it's words on a page that you hear, but it's I think absolutely the way to work going forward, and I hope that we can lock in more stronger collaborations going forward, because it's just a picture of just a few of you that have contributed into the work. It's people on the ground in this instance, but there's people working in the automation sphere as well. Back to Jane, who's the citizen science, just somebody to really inspire us. Andrew, lots of you, Henops River people. There's so many people inspiring us on the ground, and we want to be able to close that loop from this national scale apparently desktop work, but it has to be really anchored, and it's getting closer within reach to have types that you can recognize and you can work on to tell us the updated data, as again Patsy nicely laid out. So we're going to keep working in this loop, this network of partners. I hope we can really map that out as strongly as possible, so we can see how we can work seamlessly together going forward. I just pulled out a few quotes from the Global Wetland Outlook. Any delay on not working in this way, I think increases the costs. You know, restoration is definitely the action of the moment, but prevention is more cost effective. So let's keep doing the work that we know we need to do, and focusing that restoration where it's strategically needed. We need to work across the realms, integrated. We need to work across people in the landscape. Inclusive is the way to go. And we hope that this data framework that we've been able to set up now over the last few years is going to really be able to serve into all of this work. So we're here hopefully to serve, and please integrate us and work with us in our role to coordinate and develop and disseminate this information. I think that is my last slide. It's it was a bit of maybe not the best idea to try and put the names on the page because we need more pages, but I just wanted to at least recognize some of the really key people that gave of their time. Thanks so much. I think it's Chipo that I hand back to.
Yes, thank you so much to our speakers. Luckily, we have a few minutes for some questions and inputs from our audience. And while you are just thinking about the questions, it's important to understand that the NBA builds and contributes to such a body of knowledge that enables us and all the stakeholders to develop various policy responses and detailed actions that are required for the benefit of biodiversity. And for people, if you have a question, we'll just take a couple of questions. Just unmute your mic. I can already see a hand, and just ask your question. Yes. Mariette, I can see your hand is up. You can unmute and ask.
Yes, thank you very much. I think it is a brilliant exercise, and we laud you for your initiative, notwithstanding the limited funds. I just want to ask, I am a member of the SDG 6 Water and Sanitation Sector Leadership Group and Task Team, and one of the gaps in the targets had been identified, that is the target 6.6, that is to protect and restore water-related ecosystems, including mountains, forests, wetlands, rivers, and aquifers, and lakes. It was reported that there is a severe lack of wetland data, insufficient estuarine monitoring data, then also insufficient hydrological data for rivers, lakes, dams, and estuaries, and 16 geohydrological regions have only one borehole for monitoring, and 4 regions have none at all, and so it goes on. So I just want to ask, is it possible perhaps to present your findings and your initiatives at the next SDG 6 task team meetings, because it would appear that perhaps this is not an accurate reflection of what is done. And then I also just want to mention that in terms of the European Environmental Bureau, it rated the mining pollution as second only in risk to global warming because of the profound, often irreversible impacts on ecosystems. Perhaps that can also be perhaps more investigated. And then the last one, thank you very much for defining wetlands, that it includes not just wetlands and buffer zones, but the entire catchment. Thank you for that.
Great, thank you very, very much for that. Yes, we know that like our wetlands are the expression, they're the result of the catchment, the water that's come from that catchment. They really are the expression of that. We would love to present at the next SDG 6.6 meeting, and those points are well met. Our hydrological monitoring and our estuarine monitoring really is critical to keep going, as it is for our river and wetland monitoring. So, but we'd like to be our role to be seen and to be able to have that relationship of what can we do, what can we focus on that's fit for purpose, to support that and help with the messaging as well going forward. So, I think we'd love to step into our place there, and also to align. I think the Ramsar, we feed automatically into Ramsar monitoring, Ramsar reporting, and I think SDG 6.6 and the Ramsar reporting is really nicely done if aligned. I think, and I see Heidi's in the room, and Heidi has really helped articulate, as you are and as many of your colleagues, many citizen scientists out there, the huge impact of pollution into our water quality and into our systems. So we raised in this NBA the wastewater treatment works and that component. We've got a set of key messages, and we started to make mention of mining, and we fully recognize it as a major, just as you said, of huge magnitude. And it's we need to, now that we've got this nice framework, we have to rush forward into the catchment, smaller scale, and looking and helping bring your voices in, because I know of all the, I mean, we see all the amazing work done by people on the ground, and to be able to capture that real state of the systems, so that it's not masked with our national scale assessment. Sorry for again the long answer, but thank you so much for your contribution.
I can see Cole's hand is up. Yes, Cole, you can ask your question. Hear you, Cole. Hello?
Are you there, Cole? Are you on mute? Maybe.
Not showing like he's on mute. Cole, can you hear us? You could also just put it in the chat if you can hear me.
Could I say something, Chipo? Also just I think what we will do, hopefully, and we've been quite quiet because us being a small team, we haven't communicated a lot. We've just been trying to move ourselves forward, but I think it's time to take a breath. It's time to really engage and take on board the advice. We've set up a number of platforms for that, but I think we'll particularly for this upcoming year, we'll be in FEN more often. We'll be at the forums, the provincial forums, the Indabas, and help us plan our way forward for the next phase. Thanks. An appeal to all of our listeners. And I think my email address was on the slide, so yeah, please feel free to contact me directly as well. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Seems Cole has fixed his settings. You can ask Cole You have a few minutes left.
Have I fixed my settings? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, great. Okay, just a cheeky question from me as someone who's in this field of freshwater conservation and have been doing so for a number of years. I wonder, when will it come time for funds to be proportioned or partitioned from taxpayer money for conservation of freshwater infrastructure in the country? I don't know if that's already being done to some extent. I'm not privy to those kinds of conversations and decisions and meetings, but I just was struck by the same fact of what we always hear, that there's a funding limitation. It comes from privatized money. Volunteers with goodwill need to come out and do the work, limited staff, limited skills. It's all a big labor of love. And I just wonder, as a team a big team of people that care about freshwater and terrestrial, any form of conservation in the country, at what stage do we stop struggling with funds to get these projects on the ground and, get the necessary funding?
Look, I think it's not going to change quickly, and
Yeah.
I think there is work. The Ecological Infrastructure for Water Security project recently concluded. Their focus was, the one part of their focus was on the financial mechanisms, and I think at the moment that there's so much to do with that, and the first task is to, as Mariette highlighted, to get our hydrological monitoring. The mechanisms at the moment would go towards DWS and some of the hydrological monitoring and getting some of those first. From what I can see in the way that work's unfolded at the moment, and so I think it's a very tough environment at the moment for funding. Environment is last. It's the last thing that's funded. Maybe there's a few other things. We're one of the last things that are funded at the moment in terms of the priorities of the country. But I do think that there's excellent people working on projects. So if we could collectively try, and we will do our best to be better at putting out our strategic framework, so that those of you that are working on well-funded projects or have a passion, we can, I think if we collectively even mobilize what we're doing at the moment more strategically, I feel it would be quite a game changer. And it's quite a tricky, it's herding cats. It's going to be tricky, but I feel we could collectively mobilize ourselves better. And we'll try and do our best to assist in that. It's from at the moment my only solution that I can think of. Oops.
Stop this webinar. It's been coming up.
Hold on, somebody's
it's
got the. All right, I think, Tipo, that might be our cue to close off. I think we've got a few minutes left. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to our speakers who managed to make it for this webinar. Thank you for all who managed to attend. Please note that the recordings of these webinars will be available on the Sanbi YouTube channel. Please like, share with your colleagues and counterparts. And we encourage you to engage with the NBA website, which is available for you to use. We have been happy to have you here this Friday afternoon. Have a nice and happy long weekend. Bye.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.